What if, on one ordinary day, gravity simply stopped, not forever, not for a minute, just for 7 seconds? 7 seconds where everything not bolted down rises into the air. 7 seconds where cars lift off highways, where children float from playgrounds, where the ocean itself abandons the seafloor. And then, just as suddenly, gravity returns, everything falls. According to the viral claim, the death toll would reach tens of millions. Infrastructure would collapse. Entire economies would break. Civilization, as we know it, would never fully recover. And supposedly, the people in charge already know. The story revolves around an alleged secret NASA program called Project Anchor, a classified operation, hidden from the public, designed not to save humanity, but to quietly help a selected few survive a coming gravitational disaster while everyone else remains uninformed. It is a terrifying idea. It is also completely false. Let's make that clear right at the start. There is no real evidence of Project Anchor. There are no leaked documents. The science behind the claim does not hold up. Physicists have rejected it. Fact-checkers have dismantled it. NASA has denied it. And yet, despite all of that, the story spread across the internet with remarkable speed. Millions of people watched it. Thousands shared it. Comment sections filled with panic, arguments, and genuine fear. So the question is not just whether the claim is true. It is not. The more interesting question is this: why do stories like this spread so easily? Why does a claim this scientifically impossible still feel believable to so many people? What is it about black holes, gravitational waves, secret programs, and government silence that captures the imagination so completely? That is what this investigation is about, because today we are not just going to laugh at a conspiracy theory and move on. We are going to take it seriously enough to understand it. We will trace where the rumor came from. We will break down the story piece by piece. We will look at the real science of gravity and gravitational waves. And then we will do something the original conspiracy never really did. We will ask, if Earth somehow really did lose gravity for 7 seconds, what would actually happen? And the answer is stranger, harsher, and in some ways even more terrifying than the viral version. This is the story of Project Anchor, a modern internet panic built on fake certainty, misunderstood physics, and one of the oldest human fears of all, the fear that the world beneath our feet may not be as stable as we assume. The rumor began spreading online in late 2024 and early 2025. One of the most widely shared versions appeared in a short social media video. The setup was simple. A man sat silently in a car while text on screen delivered the warning: on August 12, 2026, Earth will lose gravity for 7 seconds. NASA knows. They are preparing. They will not tell the public why. That alone would have been enough to get attention, but the post did something more effective than simply making a wild claim. It added details, specific details, the kind of details that make fiction feel researched. According to the story, a classified NASA document called Project Anchor leaked online in November 2024. The alleged budget was $89 billion. The supposed purpose was to survive a 7.3-second gravitational anomaly predicted to occur on August 12, 2026, at 14:33 UTC. That level of precision matters, because vague stories are easy to dismiss. Precise stories feel real. The post even described the event second by second. In the first 2 seconds, objects begin to rise. By seconds 3 and 4, people and vehicles are floating 15 to 20 meters above the ground. By seconds 5 and 6, panic spreads as people slam into ceilings and objects collide in midair. At second 7, gravity returns, everything falls. The claim went further. It predicted 40 to 60 million deaths. It warned of global infrastructure collapse. It suggested the world economy would be shattered for years. And then came the most dramatic twist of all. The cause, according to the conspiracy, would be the intersection of 2 gravitational waves from colliding black holes, an event NASA had allegedly predicted years in advance with a 94.7% probability. Supposedly, governments were already preparing underground shelters for essential personnel. Scientists, military leaders, politicians, selected civilians. The public, meanwhile, would be left in the dark to avoid mass panic. It is a perfect internet conspiracy. It has a deadline, it has villains, it has secret documents, it has a fake scientific mechanism. And most importantly, it gives believers the feeling that they know something other people do not. That is powerful, because people are often drawn not just to fear, but to hidden knowledge. And around this point in the video, if you enjoy breakdowns like this, where we separate internet myth from real science and go deeper than the headlines, subscribe to the channel. It really helps, and it lets me keep making long-form investigations like this one. Now, the reason Project Anchor spread so effectively is not just because it was dramatic, it was structured well. The story attached itself to a real event, a total solar eclipse on August 12, 2026. That eclipse is real. It has been known about for years. It will pass over parts of the Arctic, Greenland, Iceland, and sections of Europe. So the conspiracy did what many successful hoaxes do. It anchored fiction to reality. That way, when people check one part of the story and find that it is true, they become more vulnerable to the parts that are false. The eclipse is real. So maybe the date is real. And if the date is real, maybe the warning is real. And if the warning sounds scientific enough, maybe the cover-up is real too. This is how misinformation works best. Not by inventing everything from nothing, but by blending one real fact with 10 invented ones. To understand why the story fails, we need to look at what a real leak would actually look like. When genuine classified information becomes public, it usually leaves a trail. There are documents, scans, metadata, headers, signatures, consistent terminology, verifiable sources. There are reporters who examine the material. News organizations stake their reputation on publishing it. That did not happen here. Project Anchor had no verified document, no published memo, no photograph, no official formatting, no consistent paper trail. The entire leak existed mostly as social media text. That is not how major government leaks usually surface. And then there is the budget. $89 billion is not pocket change. That is the kind of number that leaves evidence. Appropriations, contracts, oversight, internal discussion. Whistleblowers, journalistic scrutiny. A program that large cannot hide itself forever behind a single, anonymous, viral post. But conspiracy theories are often built to defend themselves in advance. If there is no evidence, that proves the cover-up. If no one confirms it, that means they were silenced. If experts reject it, that means the experts are involved. That is one reason conspiracy thinking is so resilient. It turns every contradiction into reinforcement. The absence of proof becomes proof. And once a story is built that way, facts alone often stop being enough to break it. Now let's get to the science. The central claim of Project Anchor is that Earth would temporarily lose gravity because two gravitational waves from black hole collisions would intersect at our planet. That sounds scientific, but almost every part of that sentence is wrong. First, gravitational waves do not switch off gravity. Gravitational waves are ripples in spacetime. They are disturbances that travel outward when extremely massive objects accelerate, especially when black holes or neutron stars collide. They stretch and squeeze space by unimaginably tiny amounts as they pass. They do not cancel Earth's gravity. They do not turn gravity off. They do not behave like an on-off switch for the universe. Second, gravitational waves are extremely weak by the time they reach us. The first direct detection of gravitational waves happened in 2015. It was historic, a major scientific breakthrough. The signal came from two black holes merging about 13 billion light-years away. This was one of the most violent events humanity has ever detected in the universe. And yet when the wave reached Earth, the change it produced was so tiny that it altered LIGO's detector arms by less than a fraction of a proton's width. Not centimeters, not millimeters, not even atomic scale in any everyday sense. A fraction of a proton, that is the real world of gravitational waves, extraordinary at the source, incredibly subtle by the time they reach us. So no, a passing gravitational wave would not lift your car into the air. It would not make oceans rise. It would not send houses floating upward. It would not make you lose contact with the ground. If such waves could do that, Earth would be in constant danger. The universe has been filled with gravitational activity for billions of years, but nothing like this has ever happened. Third, gravitational waves cannot be predicted years in advance the way the conspiracy claims. This point is crucial. Gravitational waves travel at the speed of light. That means we detect them when they arrive, not years before. Information about them cannot reach us ahead of time by some magical faster-than-light warning system. If two black holes merge in a distant galaxy, the gravitational waves they produce travel across the universe and reach Earth after millions or billions of years. We become aware of them when they get here, not in advance, not 5 years early, not with a 94.7% probability report filed in secret. That number, 94.7%, is one of those fake precision details that makes misinformation look intelligent. It sounds technical, so people stop asking where it came from. But where did it come from? No equation was provided, no model, no source, no paper, no scientist with a real name attached to it. It was just a number inserted for psychological effect. And it worked, because fake certainty is often more persuasive online than honest uncertainty. The conspiracy also says NASA knew, but even that reveals confusion. NASA is not the main organization detecting gravitational waves. That work is most famously associated with observatories like LIGO, with major support from institutions built specifically for that purpose. This may sound like a small mistake, but it matters. It shows the creators of the rumor were borrowing the image of science without understanding the scientific landscape. They needed a powerful, recognizable institution, so they chose NASA. To the average viewer, NASA sounds right, but sounding right is not the same as being right. At this point, we should pause and ask something deeper. Why does a story like this feel believable, even when the science collapses under even mild scrutiny? Part of the answer is distrust. We live in a time when many people no longer trust governments, corporations, media institutions, or experts. And to be fair, history gives people reasons to be cautious. Institutions do lie, governments do hide things, corporations do deceive, but that truth creates a dangerous opening. Because once people accept that some secrets are real, they can become more willing to believe that every dramatic claim is secretly true. And that is where conspiracies thrive. Project Anchor offers a story with a clear enemy, a clear deadline, and a clear emotional reward. If you believe it, you become one of the people who sees through the lie. You become part of the informed minority. That identity can be hard to give up, especially online, where fear spreads faster than correction and where confidence often sounds more convincing than evidence. But now let's move from the false story to the real science. What is gravity, actually? Most people grow up with a simple idea. Gravity is the force that pulls us down. That is not wrong, exactly, but it is incomplete. Newton gave us the first great mathematical description of gravity. He showed that every object with mass attracts every other object with mass. The larger the mass, the stronger the attraction, the greater the distance, the weaker it becomes. Newton's equations were powerful enough to describe falling apples, planetary orbits, and eventually the trajectories that took humanity to the moon. But Newton did not fully explain what gravity was. He described how it behaved. Einstein changed that. In general relativity, gravity is not just a pulling force. It is the curvature of spacetime caused by mass and energy. Massive objects bend the geometry around them, and other objects move through that curved geometry. That means Earth does not have gravity because some cosmic switch is set to on. Earth has gravity because Earth has mass. As long as Earth exists, and as long as mass behaves the way mass behaves, spacetime around Earth remains curved. And that is why the phrase, Earth will lose gravity for 7 seconds, is not just unlikely, it is physically meaningless. For Earth to lose gravity, Earth would have to lose the mass that creates that gravitational field. The planet itself would have to disappear, or undergo some unimaginable transformation that would be far more catastrophic than the conspiracy even describes. Gravity is not a lamp you unplug. It is not a machine that stops running. It is not a temporary setting. It is woven into the existence of mass itself. Now for the thought experiment. What if the impossible happened anyway? What if, somehow, Earth really did lose gravity for 7 seconds? The conspiracy gives us a gentle, cinematic version of events. People float upward, cars drift. Then gravity comes back and everything falls. That is not what would happen. The first problem is motion. You are not actually motionless right now. You are on a rotating planet, moving through space at enormous speed. You do not feel that motion because everything around you moves with you. Gravity keeps you attached to Earth's surface as the planet turns. If gravity vanished, you would not simply float straight upward like a balloon. You would continue moving according to inertia, while Earth continued rotating beneath you. In practical terms, it would feel less like you are rising and more like the ground is dropping away. The direction and violence of that separation would depend on your position on the planet, but it would not be a calm, vertical drift. Second, the atmosphere would begin to behave very badly. Air is held close to Earth by gravity. Without gravity, the atmosphere would immediately begin expanding away from the planet. Pressure would drop. Breathing would become difficult very quickly. You would not have 7 comfortable seconds to look around in wonder. You would be in a life-threatening environment almost immediately. Third, water would not stay where it belongs. Oceans, lakes, rivers, swimming pools, all of them depend on gravity. Without it, water would surge into motion in chaotic ways. The viral post imagine's neat rising objects. Reality would be much more violent and much less orderly. Fourth, everything already moving would remain in motion. Cars would not politely hover. Planes would not just pause. Ships would not sit still. Vehicles would become uncontrolled projectiles. Structures would fail in ways the conspiracy never even begins to imagine. And if gravity returned after 7 seconds, there would be no clean reset. Objects would not simply fall straight back to where they started. They would return from altered trajectories at dangerous speeds, after colliding with other objects and after the environment itself had already begun to destabilize. A true 7-second loss of gravity would not be a strange inconvenience. It would be a civilization-ending catastrophe. The fact that the conspiracy imagines a much gentler scenario shows that even its creators did not fully understand the disaster they would describe. And that may be the final irony of Project Anchor. It wanted to sound scientific. It wanted to feel apocalyptic. It wanted to look sophisticated. But in the end, it misunderstood both science and apocalypse. The science says Earth is not going to lose gravity on August 12, 2026. There is no hidden NASA program. There is no credible evidence of a leak. There is no known mechanism by which gravitational waves could do anything remotely like this. What is real is much more interesting. A real total solar eclipse will happen on that date. Real gravitational waves do pass through the universe. Real scientists have spent decades learning how spacetime behaves. And real human psychology makes us vulnerable to stories that combine fear, mystery, and authority. That is the real lesson here, not just that this story is false. But that false stories often spread by borrowing the language of truth. They use scientific words, precise numbers, official-sounding names, and they wrap all of it around a fear people already carry, fear of being lied to. Fear of being left behind, fear that the world is less stable than it seems, but gravity will still be here on August 12, 2026. The ground will still be beneath your feet. The atmosphere will still surround the planet. The oceans will stay where they belong. And if you are lucky enough to be somewhere along the path of the eclipse, you will witness something genuinely extraordinary, not because the laws of physics are failing, but because they are working exactly as they always have. That in the end is the beautiful part. Reality does not need conspiracy to be fascinating. The universe is already strange enough. If you enjoyed this investigation, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment with the next topic you want me to break down, and share this with someone who loves science, mysteries, or internet rabbit holes. Because the next viral panic is coming, there is always another one, and the best defense is not fear. It is understanding. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.